Hello, I'm Robert McConnell. I'm the quality supervisor here at Aventon. Thank you all for joining us today for Coffee and Go. Coffee and Go with Aventon is a live stream event designed to give Aventon riders direct access to our company. And it's also an opportunity for us to share insights and announcements for what's happening with Aventon and our products. So today we'll be interviewing James, who is the Director of Customer Service here at Aventon, and we will be discussing fire safety around e-bikes, how to properly handle your lithium-ion batteries. We'll also have a Q&A, so please drop your questions in the comments section, and we will answer as many as we can towards the end of the show. So feel free to grab a cup of coffee, sit back wherever you are, and we'll get started. Welcome, James.
Hey, Robert. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man. Excited.
Yeah, this will be a great show today. So I'm real excited to learn more about the fire safety, and also pick up some tips from you that you're sharing with our customers on how to properly take care of the e-bike batteries.
Yeah, very cool.
So first, before we go into the batteries, how long have you been working here at Aventon, and what inspired you to take this career path?
Yeah, so I've been with Aventon since last April. Before that, I was contracted with Aventon to kind of help out with a few things. So technically, I've been working with the team at Aventon for over a year, but officially my year will come up in April. And I've been working in the bike industry since 2013. Yeah, I kind of got into the bicycle industry because I didn't have anything better to do, and ended up falling in love with it. Being around bikes and talking about bikes and getting people outside and, seeing transitions of like people changing their lives with getting healthy and that kind of stuff. So that's what kind of got me into the bike industry. But I care deeply about kind of micromobility and alternative forms of transportation. And that's what really led me to join the Aventon team, because it was not only just the bike industry where we looked at, people getting healthy, people getting outside, experiencing the world, but also, hey, I could use this instead of driving a car to get kind of things done and around town and around work. So that's why I'm here. That's why I continue to be here, and excited to kind of share knowledge. So,
well, awesome. They're definitely some fantastic things going on in the e-bike world, and we're growing fast and covering a lot of stuff. But one of the big topics that comes up a lot is what is the right way to handle the e-bike batteries, the lithium-ion batteries, proper handling and stuff like that. So what are some of the things that people should look for when they're looking at e-bikes to make sure that they're getting a high-quality battery?
Yeah, so the first thing that we want to be looking at, whether it's Aventon or it's any other bike industry, anything with a lithium-ion battery for that micromobility, is certification, right? Proper testing on the battery. So specifically, Aventons are tested to the UL 2849 standard by a nationally recognized testing laboratory called TUV Reinhold. So TUV is a great lab that does the same rigor as UL to the UL standard. So that certification is very, very important. And that tests, heat and cold and punctures and exposures, and things like getting submerged into water, because lithium is reactive to water. And so you want to make sure that you have no problems if your batteries get wet. And so that's what all of our batteries go through before they go to market. Additionally, kind of just like where the cells come from is really important. That's a little bit harder to find, but you want to be looking for high quality cell manufacturing. Panasonic, Samsung, LG are all really well recognized lithium ion cell manufacturers, which Aventon takes advantage of as well. So that's the big one for e-bikes and e-mobility.
Awesome. Well, what are some precautions people can take when charging their e-bike batteries?
Yeah, that's another big one. So you want to be kind of not overcharging, right? That's a big one. And Aventon's batteries and chargers have like the chargers and batteries talk to each other to kind of recognize like, hey, I've been on the charger for a long time, or I am fully charged, that kind of thing. So you don't have to worry so much about that kind of stuff. But however, you don't want to just like leave your battery on and plugged in all the time. That's not great for the battery. It's not great for the charger. And so making sure that those kind of things have a limited number of time. What I like to do is kind of set a timer on my phone because Aventon batteries charge so quickly. I kind of just set that timer on, so if I'm at 50% battery, I'm at 80% battery, set a timer. And then when the timer goes off, I go and unplug that charger from the battery. So that's a big one. And then using the proper charger for the e-bike, right? You don't want to use a third-party charger because as we talked about, the charger and the battery talking to each other. That's not a universal language. That's not a universal manufacturing piece of chargers. So making sure that you use Aventon chargers or whatever manufacturer you have, you're using that charger for that battery. Mm-hmm. And then what else we have here? We've got the recommended guidelines, right? That's a big one. So yeah, I think we got everything there.
Yeah.
Within proper charging.
Okay. Another thing that pops up a lot, especially at this time of year, wintertime, or even in some parts of the country in the summertime, what are the proper ways or best ways to store the battery so that I get the best life out of it and take care of it the right way?
Yeah. Longevity on the battery is important. So I always kind of tell people the best place to store your battery is on your bike, right? Like it's there, it's contained, it's safe. It's kind of in its natural habitat. But from time to time, people might live in an apartment building where their bikes are in like a public storage, kind of like a bike locker, and you might not be able to charge your bike right there, right? So you're gonna take your battery off your bike. Again, same thing. Like if you're in very cold climates or extreme hot climates, I mean, you might not be a big cyclist if you're living in really hot temperatures, but to each their own. And so making sure if you do take the battery off the bike to charge it in the house or whatnot, that it's on a good like hard surface, right? Mm. Wood, tile, if you maybe have a concrete or like a quartz countertops, that's the best place to kind of be charging things, not on carpets, obviously not in any liquids, in places where it's not going to be damaged, right? So you wouldn't charge your battery right next to the kitchen sink. That's probably a bad place to be charged at. The batteries won't be necessarily damaged as in irreplaceable around extreme temperatures. But if you've got a cold garage and it's going to be stored there like all winter, it's probably best to bring that inside and store it in a safe place where it's, cool, dry, not too hot, not too cold. So it's like, I wouldn't put it next to the cabinet next to my oven, right? Those kind of things. So it's really just trying to keep it like a good normal temperature, right? I kind of tell people like, do you know how to store flour? That's probably the best place how to store a battery, right? Flour likes to be in a cool, dry place, like not exposed to sun. And that's pretty much what I would recommend.
What do you recommend for say charge level? How full or discharged should the battery be before I store it for a long period?
Yeah, long periods of storage. We're talking like, over a month, right? You might be a very active rider and a week in between is not a big deal. But even like over a month, getting into, like a long period of time of like maybe winter or just whatever your cold climate is, right? Would be around that 80% charge mark is best. Not fully charged, but not fully depleted. And it kind of just has the ability to kind of regulate itself. That's the best place because temperature does affect charge. So you want to kind of keep it at that like 3/4 full almost battery charge. And I've seen some pretty creative ways to kind of get there. on discharge. If someone's like, oh man, I just charged this thing and then I got 6 feet of snow today. Um, yeah, hit us up on customer service if you have any questions on like, how do I get this thing to 80%? We've seen some pretty creative ways. So
Cool. Very cool. So, what would some of the warning signs be that a battery is no longer in good condition, either for charging or for physically good condition?
yeah, best thing is physical condition, right? So if you've got like a puncture, right, it's not a good battery to use anymore. If you've got bulging, if a lot of times like batteries are in like a poly kind of material, like a plastics. If that plastic kind of like wavy, right, it means that kind of got too hot and that plastic started to deform or whatever it's encased in. So physical damage is a big telltale sign. Your battery shouldn't operate like real hot. So if it's like you can't handle it, that's also a bad sign. So you're going to want to not use those things. Typically what I usually tell people, like if you notice this during charging, even unplug it from the wall first and then unplug it from the battery, because you have that charge block kind of in between power source and battery to kind of protect anything, right? If the battery's hot enough for any reason, it kind of like assume that you've got a situation, and so kind of like walking it to the battery resolution, right? So from the wall first, and then unplug from the battery, let it cool down, and then kind of dispose of it properly.
So, on the subject of disposing of it, what's the best way for me to get rid of an e-bike battery?
Yeah. So Aventon last year partnered with an awesome organization called Call to Recycle, and which is we kind of pay into this program every battery we sell so that you can have proper e-bike battery disposal, and they'll actually recycle it and they'll collect it. And I believe it's from all of our partners as well. We'll allow collection from that. And Aventon will take care of that. So any Aventon partner should be able to help you out with that.
Wow, that's awesome. The any like general do's and don'ts when it comes to battery safety and handling the battery the right way?
Yeah, don't mess with it. The batteries are pretty complicated kind of piece of technology, not in the sense of like, it's not rocket science. However, kind of going back to our testing, that UL 2849 is a pretty rigorous testing, right? If you follow anything in the bicycle industry right now, there's two kind of like bodies that are looking like, hey, what's the UL certification that we use? And with that rigor means that those things are built to kind of last. Mm-hmm. So don't try and take it apart. The part of that UL 2849 is submersion test. So in order for an electronic piece to be submerged, it has to be kind of caked, right, in a protective gel, essentially. So we don't actually even take apart our own batteries. That goes to our manufacturing facility where those things are assembled. So don't take it apart. Modifications to the battery, right? So you might be looking at the battery like, hey, it's got 15 amp hours. Maybe I could bump it up to 20. Like, that's not a good idea either, because it's everything is kind of like in a sliding scale. So if you were to try and change one thing, multiple things would have to change as well. And so kind of just like, don't mess with it at all. A lot of cool things you can be doing to your bike to kind of customize it and get some better efficiency out of it. The last thing we would say to ever touch would be the battery. And then, alongside with that, like trying to tinker, like I'm a tinkerer, I love tinkering things. The kind of the natural things, right? Don't throw it in a bucket of water, even if it's been, tested to be submerged. Additionally, puncturing is not a good idea. I don't know, kind of, do I have to say it, but don't run it over with your car, those kinds of things would be pretty bad with the battery.
Definitely safety is a big focus. Definitely a big focus here at Aventon. Do you have any other speaking of general tips, just maybe some general safety tips when it comes to riding e-bikes.
Yeah, that's a big subject. I think when I first started to see e-bikes come to America, that was a big piece I was the most afraid for this product line. Is just general safety and good road etiquette. In the mountain bike space, when on multi-use trails, bikes have to yield to everyone, right? Hikers and equestrians, at least in California. I kind of like to use that general rule as well with just like kind of everything, right? Even on the roads, pedestrians have the right of way. However, there's a YouTube influencer that I kind of follow called Dan the Fireman. We're not sponsored by him, but shout out to that. And he calls it the law of gross tonnage, right? So cars and motorcycles and even horses are much heavier than you and the bicycle. So even though I have the right of way, I look at that as, just general safety. So that's kind of road safety. Whenever it's best and safest, I kind of stay off the sidewalk, right? So in my office where I am currently is Brea, California. There's a big kind of highway called Imperial Highway. I don't ride my e-bike on that highway because it's very fast, high speeds. And so when I do ride on the sidewalk, I usually keep the top speed down to like a manageable speed, right? Because there's going to be people walking, that's almost a multi-use as well. And so staying off the sidewalks as much as possible when it's safe. And then respecting local laws and regulations, right? So again, the example of California, we have some pretty nice beaches with boardwalks, and different classifications of e-bikes are not allowed on the boardwalk. And so I don't ride my e-bike on those boardwalks because it's tons of people, and we want to make sure that these things are around for a long time. And so respecting those laws and having good etiquette, because you don't want to sour the taste of the non-e-bike riders because they probably haven't experienced it and they're missing out. So you don't want to make that hard for them. So
Definitely.
yeah. And then, always wear a helmet, right? That's rule number one. There's a lot of force, even just kind of falling to the side is enough to give you a concussion. So making sure that you have that helmet to slow any kind of brain movement down and that second impact avoidance within the skull. Now, I could talk all about that. Don't even get me started. So
another version of the safety show.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. Those are some fantastic general tips. Really, really good. Now I'd like to go to a couple frequently asked questions. James, you touched on both of these, but maybe we can expand on it a little bit more. But one of the frequently asked questions we get about batteries are, how long should I charge my battery? One thing that I'd like to add on that, a question that I see a lot is, if my battery's completely depleted, about how long does it take? So I know for most of our batteries, it's about a 4 to 6 hour charge time if it's completely depleted. How long are you seeing, do you feel that it's safe to leave it on the charger? Say I'm not around for 4 or 5 hours. Would you like to expand on any times for that?
Yeah. So our bikes are safe to kind of charge for, even if it's, say 60%, and I'm leaving on the charger for 4 hours and, whatnot. I got to go grab groceries and that kind of stuff. Because of the way our battery management system or battery monitoring system works with our charger, it's those extended periods of time, right? Like I wouldn't want to leave my bike charging overnight, kind of thing, because that's just a long time, and it's kind of like Murphy's Law, right? There's no issue with our bikes being on chargers for extended periods of time. It's just that's the best practice, right? Just like riding with a helmet. Yes, I can ride my bike without a helmet. Is it a best practice to do it? No, it's not. And so that's kind of like what I like to liken it to. So, but yeah, it can be on the charger for that long of time. So like completely depleted, like you said, 4 to 5, maybe 6 hours, depending on temperature outside.
Right.
But say you're at 50%, you got another long ride tomorrow with your friends. A 4-hour charge is not going to hurt it to be on the charger for that long, because the charger stops charging, right? And we talk about that kind of stuff because you have no idea what can happen to the source voltage, right? My house is 100 years old, and when I first bought it, it had knob and tube, if you know what that kind of electrical system is, wiring, right? Not super safe for current, like, kind of electronics. And so I had that changed to a more modern electrical system. And so those are the kind of things like why we don't want to charge it for too long. It's not necessarily something wrong with our product or like nuances to the product. It's more like just kind of controlling as many variables as you can, right? So, God forbid a lightning strike or some sort of over voltage from a solar system. Those are the kind of things you're trying to avoid.
Yeah, better to err on the side of safety for sure.
Yeah.
One more frequently asked question, and then we'll go to the live Q&A. But and again, you touched on this a bit. Where's the best place to store my battery when I'm not using my e-bike? So, extreme situations like, I'm in Arizona in the summertime and it's 120 degrees outside. I normally keep my e-bike in the garage. Should I do something different?
Yeah, I would probably pop the battery out and not store it in the garage. And you're doing that not because of like safety is one thing, but more for just like longevity of your battery, right?
Mhm.
Lithium does not like cold, does not like heat, and so like even big manufacturers of lithium ion, like not even micromobility, like actual car mobility, will say the temperature can affect battery life. And the advantage of bicycles, we can pull that battery out and store it. So cool, dry place, right? I used the flour analogy earlier, like store it like you would flour, right? Kind of like out of the sun, cool, dry place. If you have proper shelving, like in your closet, or a spare closet where it's not kind of like a bunch of stuff piled on top of it, those are good places. Bookshelves are great. If you have an adventure, right, it has a cool battery cover, so that might even like be a cool like shelf, like accent piece, right, in your living room, right? Like, oh yeah, like this is a cool thing. It looks great.
I like that.
So those are good places to kind of store those things. They don't have to be like completely like, don't put me in the light, vampire style. But so you might not just want a battery kind of sticking out and hanging out. So, but if you have a temperature controlled garage, it's totally fine to do that, right?
True.
That's typically not something in the desert you find, but in colder, wetter climates, you might have temperature control. So, yeah, that would be my recommendation. And I kind of, like I said, I go to the flour analogy a lot. How would you store flour? That's how I would probably store my battery.
Awesome. Well, we'll go to the live Q&A now, and I'll bounce these back and forth with James too. Some great questions on here. I'm going to grab a question from Sharon on Facebook. What are the charging steps for a new bike, and is monthly rebalancing needed? James, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So sorry, to go back to the question.
The charge
New bikes, it's best to kind of check where it is and throw it in the charger. If it's typically you probably won't get a fully charged bike unless you maybe buy it from one of our partners at a local retailer, because they'll want to have it charged for you is to be able to use it right away. So new bikes, it's sticking on the charger, and our chargers have a light indicator. And sometimes some of our models have light indicators on the battery themselves, and they'll turn red when they need charge or when they are charging, and then they'll turn green when they're done. And that's the best method to do that. For balancing, a lot of our newer models don't really need balancing in that regard. So if you're buying a bike this month, within the last year, you probably don't need to be doing a balancing. Some of our older models would benefit from a balancing, and that's pretty rare if needed at all. It's usually if you see like some sort of irregularity with the battery, like it's not lasting as long, or something like that. It could benefit from balancing.
Yeah, maybe that balancing would bring it back and bring the charge level back up.
Yeah.
Next question from Roy on Facebook. Where can I purchase a second battery for my level? On our website, that's a great place to go to purchase spare batteries or any spare accessory for your Aventon bike. Also, we have a giant dealer network. You're welcome to visit one of our dealers, and a lot of them will have them in stock. You can buy them there, or you can order through them as well. We have a great dealer locator on our website. Just punch in your zip code, and it'll let you know all the dealers that are in your area. So we've got a great dealer network. So there's probably one near you.
Right. Yeah. And
then a question from Tony on Facebook. What's new on the horizon? And that's always a big question too. Thank you, Tony. Keep an eye out. There's something big coming this month. So keep an eye out on our social media. And hey, you never know what you might find.
Yeah.
But
take a look at our social media if you want to get a little teaser of what may be coming this month.
Maybe. Not necessarily, but just maybe. But also a comment from Leah on YouTube. This is very helpful information. Thank you, Leah. Question from Tony on Facebook. Can you talk more about how to dispose of e-bike batteries?
Yeah, Tony, great question. I guess I'll take that one. But call to recycle is the best way, right? So e-wastes, battery recycling, you might have like your local government might have some resources for you. But even like those e-waste, sometimes they won't take big batteries. And so you'll have to kind of call them and find out. But call to recycle is the best way. You can go to calltorecycle.com. And you can look for a local disposal place. Even if you don't have an Aventon dealer in your area, a lot of large manufacturers like us have made it possible for their partners to accept other manufacturers' batteries, right? So I won't mention them because this is an Aventon event, but there are some pretty big other manufacturers that I personally called and I said, hey, I got a battery. Can I drop it off? They're like, yeah, man, go for it. So call to recycle and checking that map for what's closest to you is the best way to do that. For few reasons, right? It's safe is the big piece because you don't want those things going in a landfill because crushing and things like that can cause some issues. And then the other side of that is just like kind of reusing that stuff, right? Some of the parts in that battery can be repurposed for future use, and we want to be good stewards of the resources we've been given. And so recycling is the best way to dispose of batteries.
Yeah, that call to recycle website does show a few things on where the batteries go and how they recycle them. So some of the things they go to. So it's a great way of, like you say, keeping them out of the landfill where they don't belong. So. Question from Tim on Facebook. I bought a couple spare e-bike batteries for our levels right before winter and haven't charged them yet. Should I charge them to 80% now, or should I charge them before I'm ready to ride in the spring?
Depends on where you are, Tim. Currently with whatever temperature is, right? Like I'm in California. It's like 70 degrees right now. Sorry if that's too much of a dig, but yeah, I would if they're stored inside, it's not going to be too big of an issue. 80% is like the recommended for to discharge to, right? If they're lower than that, it's not going to hurt it to store for a long time. if you had bought brand new batteries, it's likely, or it's probably safe to assume they're already at that kind of storage charge. And so you should be fine. But yeah, then charge them up when you're ready to start riding in the spring, and then go for it. But yeah, as long as they're stored in a good spot in temperature, moisture level, that kind of stuff is going to be really important for those batteries.
Great. And then also from Tim on Facebook, our chargers and batteries match to each other. We have 4 level batteries and only 2 chargers. So no problem using those 2 chargers on all 4 batteries. Just making sure that charger is the right charger for that battery. Say if you had a Pace 350 and a couple levels, then definitely don't mix and match those. You want to make sure that you're using that 350 charger with the 350 battery and the level charger with the level battery for sure.
Yeah, well said.
So question from Lords on Facebook. I would like to test your e-bikes. Do you sell your bikes in Miami, Florida? James, you want to take that?
We do. We have a few partners out in that area. You can take a look at our dealer map on our website. You can find dealers by zip code, service dealers, selling dealers, that kind of thing. As well as if you were to buy on our website, you can have your bike actually delivered to those areas for an additional charge, and have that dealer build it. So maybe you wanted to try an adventure, and you got to ride the Adventure 1 at a local dealer, and they don't have the Adventure 2, and you could order it and have them sent there, or you could have them order it for you, right? But that would probably be the fastest way. If you don't see one there, give us a call. My team here is happy to answer the phone and look for a local dealer there, because we're always adding new dealers, and someone might not be on the list yet, right? Yeah, so... But I want to say it immediately escaped me. There's a dealer I had in mind in that area, but it's immediately escaped me. So yeah, take a look at our dealer map on Aventon.com.
Yeah, and you can definitely try a bike at the dealers. They're happy to let you do road tests and stuff like that, and you can see how you fit on the different models and stuff too. So if you're torn between whether the level is the right one for you or the pace is right for you, you can see how those feel right then and there.
Yeah, we also have a pretty extensive rental network within dealers too. So that might be a little bit harder to find, but we do have, like I said, quite a few people or partners that just buy our bikes to rent them out, and so that's a great way to do that too, because going to a partner, you can ride around, be able to test ride it how they allow people to test ride. But going to a rental place, right? It's like, hey, I get to use it for the whole day and ride it where I want, within their guidelines, right? But that's a great way as well.
Perfect. Well, James, thank you for joining us. Definitely appreciate your amazing work and the customer support team, everything that you guys do. Thank you very, very much. So that concludes this episode of Coffee and Go. I'd like to thank y'all for joining us, and remember to follow us on social media. You may see some interesting things, and it'll help you stay up to date with all the latest from Aventon. See y'all next time.
Thanks, everyone.